Wow. 60 minutes?
Oh, sorry, whoops. Careful, floors cost a lot of money.
I gotta pick my teeth.
Not really.
We never thought we'd make it through 15 years. But we love each other. We're friends, you know? We've got a good thing.
You're on the record with Fuse, but we're in your house. This is Studio
This is our
606.
studio.
It's the
Behave
HQ.
yourself.
Where the magic happens.
This is Fuse Central.
Yeah, this is kind of our own little fortress where within this studio, we feel like we can be ourselves. We don't feel pressure to be anything else. And we write, we rehearse here. What happens most of the time is Taylor and I will sit down together to figure out like the groove to a riff or an arrangement to complement, you know, a vocal idea that I might have, you know. And you know, we're both drummers, you know.
Yeah, I kind of like his drum, like, for lack of a better word, like basically like when we started working on stuff for this record, we had the drum set up right here, and Dave sits up here, right there with a guitar, and I'm kind of like a drum machine in a sense, and we'll jam on something, or Dave will be like, ah, you know, maybe something like this, and this is how the riff goes, and so he can hear it and actually be in the room with it and kind of feel what it's going to be like a little bit, you know?
I mean, I wonder, like, talk a little bit more about what it's like to be a drummer in a drummer's band.
There's a lot of good things about it because, you know, usually the drummer gets shit on. But I have a drummer as a boss or the leader of a band, and so he knows how that feels.
Wait, go back. Like, how is it that the drummer?
Just like, I mean, it's sort of
you know, people consider drummers to be like
dum-dums.
the dum-dums in the band, you know? Where a lot of people don't realize, you know, good drummer, good band. Great drummer, great band.
Great drummer for rock and roll is, you know, it's groove and all that, but it's also energy. And for this band, it is, you know?
Who are some of the great drummers in your mind?
Two best are John Bonham and Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
For rock and roll.
It depends on what you want or what you're into. Like, there's some drummers that are into like absolute perfection. They're just like perfect little drummers that do everything perfectly and, you know, and they're really, you know, and then you've got meat and potatoes dudes that are just like, rah, rah, rah. And then everything in between. So personally, it's like Taylor and I like different kinds of drummers, you know? He likes drummers that do things that are just like from another planet, you know? I like drummers that play like in the Gap Band or Cameo, you know, drummers that lay it down disco style. And so like, but you know, honestly, it's because I don't understand how a drummer could go like, like I don't even know
I still like them.
So
when we've come up with drums for this band, though, I mean, essentially, really, it's truly, and this is another sounding cliche, but it really is just purely about how to make this song work and translate really good. And then there's like a few little spots to do some good drum fills and maybe, and you know, but the groove's it's gotta be the right groove for whatever the riff Dave wrote or whatever it is, you know.
How have you made it through 15 years? It's a long time to do one
you know how
thing.
we made it through 15 years? We never thought we'd make it through 15 years.
Yeah, and I don't think really world domination necessarily was ever our goal anyways. Just making good records. That's kind of been the driving force. It sounds really cliche, but really, it really is to try and make the best record we've ever made and to try and play the best show we've ever played. And that's you know, I think that's why we're still around, you know?
Yeah.
And we, you know, in some funny times in our 20s.
What do you mean about funny times?
Oh, just, you know, we were wacky and wild, and I was a crazy man, and you know, me and Dave used to just cruise around LA looking for chicks and everywhere else we were.
I don't know what he's talking about.
You do. Dave had this great apartment, or house on Laurel
Don't be telling
Canyon.
people that on TV.
Sorry.
Talk about my little
You just said that you
bungalow,
We had good times.
my lair.
We had good times, kids.
Good times.
We were not always old.
Now that you're dads, does it change the music a little bit?
I don't think anyone's ever said that like that before. We're dads.
God, we used to be young.
Has the music changed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way you process everything about life changes, and so inevitably it makes its way into your songwriting. But then also logistically, it changes things like we used to hang out on tour, and it was all about like, oh man, I got so fucked up last night. You got to hear what I did, and I went to this club, and I went to titty bar, and I did all that stuff. And now, like, we'll show up to the studio, and it's just like, hey, what happens when the poo is green but kind of wet? Oh, there was one night on the road actually where there's this website called it's like Baby Zone or Baby Center, one of those things. A web page that was all about like baby and it had a gallery.
Like baby turds?
Yeah, like here's what this means. Like if it's dark and
Riveting
runny,
stuff,
and I
folks.
swear to God, I'm on the road, like sitting in my hotel room with a beer,
Reading that.
3 o'clock in the morning when the bar is raging downstairs, and I'm upstairs just like drinking a Coors Light and looking at baby on the internet.
The crazy thing is that up to like 7 or 8 months, when they're still just drinking milk, it smells kind of good.
It's like vanilla.
It smells kind of
Well,
musty.
see,
No, dude,
I
it is.
agree. Sometimes
You
it,
know
smells
it.
like, it smells like Toll House cookies sometimes. But I think that's the shit in the diaper because the diaper's got the stuff to make it smell like cookies.
dude, it's because all they're drinking is titty milk.
right.
Exactly.
It's vanilla and base or whatever, and it just goes.
It's not vanilla.
Well,
It doesn't come out of a woman's breasts. What are you talking about? You
It's
guys should
sweet.
get on babyzone.com and figure that out because evidently you have no idea what's going on with your kid's turds. When Kurt passed away, nobody could imagine playing music ever again, really. It was difficult to listen to music.
Let me ask you about your name, because I love the name, and what the name really is, what a Foo Fighter really is super cool, right? Like a World War II UFO that
Right.
the fighter pilots saw. But you know what a Foo Fighter, what they think those really were now? Nazi secret weapons.
I remember reading about that because nobody really knew, like, were they like Japanese? Were they Nazi secret weapons? Or what do they think
They
they
kind
were?
of bug you out now?
No, because I gotta be honest. Like, I believe in UFOs, and so I believe that there's something else out there that we just don't know about, or that someone doesn't want us to know about. When I did that first record, I was reading this book called Above Top Secret, and it was all about like people that were in the Air Force and the Marines and around the world talking about this crazy stuff that they've seen. I read the words Foo Fighters, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll call it that, because I didn't want people to know it was just me. If I had a name like Foo Fighters, they'd imagine it was a group of people.
So you're doing a greatest hits album, but in the era of iTunes, kind of the album concept is kind of being lost, I think. So why do one?
I've always been a fan of greatest hits records, but back when I was buying greatest hits records, they were usually on that little cassette holder next to the cash register at a truck stop, where you're on a road trip with your buddies or whatever, and you're standing there and you're buying a pack of smokes and a 6-pack of Coke, and then you look and you're like, oh my God, man, there's Kansas greatest hits. How much is that? $3.99? I'm gonna buy that. And then you
Wow,
put it in
really?
the
They only did actually have 2 good songs.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. So I imagined it like that. Like, that someday that's going to happen. There's going to be someone in a truck stop somewhere that says like, hey, well, I like that Learn to Fly song. Well, let me hear some of the other songs.
Hey kids, have you heard this song, Best of You by the Foo Fighters? It's so good.
Isn't that nice?
So basically it's old people that are going to be buying our album.
People that
this
still have
greatest-
cassette
yeah,
players.
Yeah.
No, but I think that in a way it's sort of nice to look at it like a Cliff Notes version of the band's last 15 years. Hardcore Foo Fighters fans probably look at it and go, yeah, those are just the singles or whatever.
But you're giving us
most
something-
people, you sort of say like, well, here's kind of what our band is about. Check it out.
But you're giving us some different things, 2 new songs.
Yeah.
So why'd you do that?
When we got off the last 2 years of touring, we had all this new stuff that we'd written on the road. So we went to a studio and we recorded that stuff really quick and just sort of put it to the side. And out of those 14 songs, 2 of them we thought, okay, these are pretty cool. Maybe we put that on the greatest hits record. One of them was Wheels, another one was Word Forward.
Let's talk about Word Forward. It's a really deep song because it's about your friend
Yeah.
who passed away.
Yeah.
But talk about writing it and inspiration for it. And
When I first wrote the riff 2 years ago, or whatever, it was a long time ago, I liked the idea of having an audience sing the chorus word for word a lot of our choruses, they do. You play an arena show and you sing My Hero and everyone's singing My Hero. You sing Best of You and everyone's singing Best of You, stuff like that. So I like this idea of word forward or word for word, and then it's just a play on that. And so then I started thinking about one's need to move on. That's kind of what this band was all about when we first started this band. Pat and I had been playing in Nirvana, and when Kurt passed away, nobody could imagine playing music ever again, really. It was difficult to listen to music. So that, there was, and then I realized, like, oh wait, there's healing in music. That's, maybe that's what's gonna make me feel better. Same as with Nate and William. They were in Sunny Day Real Estate, and that band had ended prematurely. And so this became a vehicle for everyone to feel like, life goes on, the ball keeps rolling, It's the same feeling like my buddy Jimmy passed away. We'd known each other since we were 5 or 6 years old. We were best friends. And he died, and I'm still heartbroken. But, the chorus of that song is basically saying, like, words mean nothing without action. And so I could write a love song about how much I love someone, or I could write about how much I miss someone. But there's just words, So to me, it's all about, like, moving forward and actually, like, doing something.
I think the second line is farewell youth.
Yeah. Well, at some point, what Jimmy represented to me and what Virginia represents to me is almost like, it's it's like your childhood. It's your whole foundation, and then losing that, it's just like, okay, you start a whole new life after that. Yeah. And so, I don't know. There's just some things that you just have to say goodbye to.
Nirvana changed a generation, right? That's real.
I do. And you can't say that.
So what was it like being part of that sort of thing that changed so many people?
You know what? It was different for me than it was anybody else. I'm sure Chris probably had the same experience, and I'm sure Kurt probably had the same experience, but it was just like being in a band. You know what I mean? And then, by Christmas, we had a gold record, and just all of these things that I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant to have a gold record. I didn't know what it meant to be on Saturday Night Live, and I didn't know what it meant to, I don't know.
Meant you could pay your rent.
I didn't know what that meant, And so it was the first time any of that had happened. And nobody really expected that to happen, So it was nuts. But, as the drummer of that band, my experience was that of, like, an anonymous drummer. I could go to a rock show and watch another band and no one would know who I was. Mm-hmm. And, at the time when Nirvana was huge, I lived a perfectly normal life outside of the band. I lived in West Seattle with a friend of mine that I'd known since I was a teenager. We had a studio in the basement. We'd eat Tostino's pizzas and go bowling and drink beer and drive around in the van. And it was, I had an entirely normal experience. The whole time I lived in Seattle, just lived in a suburb and did normal stuff.
Is it a dictatorship?
I am the president of this organization.
I know you are. You've seen the picture.
One thing that's been great about you guys, you always have a great sense of humor with your videos. And a lot of times, a sense of humor and being a rock star don't quite go together.
Well, we take what we do very seriously, like the songwriting aspect of what we do, take it very seriously. But you could see how it would be easy to think the rest of it's just kind of silly. To me, the funniest videos are the ones where people are taking themselves way too seriously. Right. Where you got, like, some dude with, like, windblown hair, right, and it's like coming out of water and nipples are all hard and like that. See, I think that stuff's funny. When we made a couple funny videos in our time. We did the Big Me video. We did the Learn to Fly video. We did the One video. We did the Low video.
We've had some fun ones that I don't think a lot of people have seen.
Like, well, I know that they haven't seen the Low video because it's me and Jack rolling around in lingerie.
And then there's the...
Haven't seen it, have you?
What? No.
See what I mean? That's the funniest one.
And then there's the next year one.
Which
cost a lot of money.
It cost a lot of money.
Nobody ever
Didn't show
saw.
that too much. No, but you know, in between most of those videos, we've put like some performance things, because honestly, like a portrait video, that just ain't gonna pay the rent. You know what I mean? That ain't gonna happen with this face.
So you're both in other projects, and I just wonder, what is it like, you know, switching in and out of this to go to that?
Taylor goes from being a drummer in this band to making a record on his own where he sings. And I go from being the singer of this band to going and playing drums in another band. So the two of us sort of flip-flop. And it's good, because to be able to do that, it makes you more sympathetic for the other person's position. You learn different things by playing with other people. You know, it always
Does it make
makes
you more
you want to.
sympathetic to him when you go and lead and sing?
Yeah, I mean, I dig why he just enjoying being a drummer for a while. Because this thing, I don't even think Dave was expecting it to be, but it's gotten big. And it's gotten like kind of, I don't know, I hate to say it, like not like, it's not a responsibility, but like.
Goddamn right it is. What are you talking about?
Well, that makes it sound like, you know, like it's just something you have to do now.
I am the president of this
Well,
organization.
I know you are. You've seen the picture.
See?
But
This is, no, I'm not around.
but that's a lot of pressure
Wait, wait,
when
wait.
we do go make a
Goddamn
record.
right it's a lot
Is
of fun.
it a dictatorship that Dave kind of gets what
right
he
it
wants?
is.
It's a
Democracy.
No.
No, what? No, it's not a democracy? He's the dictator?
It's not a dictatorship. It's not.
Watch it.
It's not. It's not. I got in trouble once. I did an interview with the NME, and they go, "Is Dave a complete control freak?" and I said, "Yeah, but he's the nicest one you'd ever meet."
I know, of course. So then I pick up the magazine like, you what?
But no. I mean, there is songs, but no. He's the leader. It started with him.
Let me take it a little bigger, because I was saying, you know, Nirvana really spoke to people about what was going on. And in the 60s and in the 70s, rock and roll really did that for people.
I think it still does.
Do you? A lot of
Absolutely.
people think hip hop really speaks to what people are going through, or it did 5 or 10 years ago.
Well-
and that rock doesn't do the same thing now.
Well,
I don't
something will
believe it at all.
happen.
No,
You disagree?
I totally disagree. Just because when you turn on the radio, you hear more hip hop than rock, or when you turn on your station, you see more hip hop than rock, it doesn't mean it's more important. It
No,
might
not
be
more important.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you've got rock bands in every city around the world who are writing about things that are socially relevant, politically relevant, things that are emotionally real and true, and that's what rock and roll is all about, you know. And the power and the energy is there, you know, whether it's in a club that's the size of this room or an arena. I stand by rock music that it'll absolutely always have the same impact on a person. Rock and roll can do the same thing that it can do, you know, when rock and roll was huge, whether it was when the Beatles were huge or Zeppelin was huge or the Police were huge. But I mean, if a kid goes out and picks up like a High on Fire record, just some crazy heavy shit that probably no one in here has really ever heard before, and they listen to it and it makes them want to like break a window, that's what rock and roll does. Like the first time you hear AC/DC, you know, you get that feeling like, oh my God, I'm gonna break stuff, you know? So I mean, that like kids can find, kids find their own way of doing that, you know? I don't want kids to play drums like me. I want kids to play drums like the kids, you know? I had my favorite drummers for sure, but I think we both taught ourselves how to do what we do. You know, we didn't go to school for this. We just, to be honest, we just
Listen to records.
and we weren't good at anything else, you know? We're lifers in that way. I'm a high school
It was
dropout.
either 2 male models or drummers. You can
Not a whole
see
lot of
why
career.
we picked the other one.
Well, thanks
Opportunity.
for us. You went the drummer route, not the model route.
We've been
you so
short-lived.
Man, thank you. Thanks
Great
a lot.
talking to you.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
2 male models or drummers.
Which one should I do? Probably got something to fall back on.